Hello everybody. This video is going to be purely about abrasives because I understand that every now and again there's a bunch of new makers and even older makers who really don't know and understand what goes into some abrasives and what the abrasives mean. So today's video is I'm going to take you around all the abrasives that I keep in stock so you can have a view and understand better in terms of what goes into a specific abrasive, what it looks like, and how does the backing number mean. So stay tuned and let's go through it. So we'll start off with 36 grit abrasives. These are the VSM Actirox, and this is the XK870X. Now the letter on the abrasive is in relation to how firm or stiff an abrasive belt is. So this is an X grit 36 grit. Now I want to show you an 80 grit F backing. This is an XK870F and it's 80 grit, but look at how much flex this backing has got. Compare that to the 60 grit, which is stiff. It's got a thick backing. So the letter on the belt at the end is in relation to how stiff or how soft the backing is. So again, you can see these are the most expensive, the Actirox. You can actually see the actual grain looks sharper than the XK870. This is 36 grit. Next we're going to go up to a 60 grit. That's what the 60 grit looks like, X backing. I've shown you the 80. Let's look at what the 120 looks like. Now the 120 is in the F backing as well. In relation to those, here's our budget range. This is the budget range, the 36 grit budget. It's got an X backing as well. Our 60 grit budget range ceramic, as well as our 80 grit budget range. Now this 80 grit comes in an X backing as well, so it's a sturdier backing on the 80 grit. Seems to work for some of the guys. Next up in the ceramic, you've then got your 180 grit. I'll put some light on so you can get you more detail on the actual belt. That's a 180. You've then got 240 grit. So these are the 240s. Can't really see much of a difference. And then you've got 400. So this is all in your ceramics. And from 80 to 400, we keep them in the F backing. Next up in VSM, we've got the 800 grit aluminum oxide. And you may ask, why doesn't ceramic come higher than 400? I've never seen ceramic higher than 400 purely because I don't think the actual material can go higher or finer than the 400 grit. So that's aluminum oxide 400 grit. Next up, we're going to look at your J flex belt. So J flex again is the flex in the belt. It's a J weight, so it's a very lightweight belt. I like these specifically for handle materials and your composite materials. I don't normally recommend them for steel because aluminum oxide doesn't last that long on steel. On handle material, wood and the like, they last much longer. But on steel, I always recommend you use the ceramic because they last much longer and you get better value for money instead of buying the J Flex. Now, this is the J Flex 100 grit. They come in 4 grits. Next up, you've got 180 grit. You then got a 220. You then got a 320. And then you've got your normal 400 as well. Focus. There's a 400. Okay, so that's what your J Flex belts looks like. Next up, we're going to talk on your polishing belts. So, polishing belts, I've got 3 different types. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of polishing belts. We're going to go from left to right, starting with Norex. So, these are your Norex belts. It's a structured abrasive. As you can see, it looks very different to the ceramic or aluminum oxide belt. This is a X22, which is equivalent to a 800 grit. You've then got an X16 grit, which is equivalent to about 1.5. And you've got an X22 grit, which is an equivalent to about a 2,500 grit. Next up, we're going to look at your 3M belts. This is the 237A. It's a structured abrasive as well. As you can see, it's got a bit of a shine. That's what it looks like. Your what's this? A30, I think. A30, this is equivalent to about a 400 grit, or is it 800? Then you got an A16, which is higher. In polishing belts, as you go higher up, the lower the number gets. So the lower the number, the higher the polish. And then you've got your A6, which again is equivalent to, I think, a 2000 or 2500. Again, these belts are quite stuffed as well. The issue with all the belts is you got to find what works for you. Some oaks this works for, some people it doesn't. Next up, you're going to look at the KK712F. This is from VSM. Again, it's an F backing belt. While they all look the same, the grit in here is different. As you can see, it looks quite rough, but when you grind on it, it's absolutely amazing because it's not that rough when you grind with it, and it wraps around quite nicely because it's F backing. The same can be said for these ones. They don't wrap around that nicely, but these wrap around your belt or your platen very nicely. You got it in 180, we then got it in a 400, and then you've got it in an 800 grit. You then got your Scotch-Brite. I'm sure lots of us have seen the Scotch-Brite belts. Got it in a fine and a medium. These are quite stuffy as well, but they work very nicely for the brushed finish. Cork belts. This is essentially pure cork. There is no grit in here. If you have to give this a grit, this will be a grit 0. There's actually 0 grit in here. What you do with this is you break some of the cork off, you load it up with compound, and then you use it on your blade to give you that mirror finished look. Finally, we've got the gaiters in stock, the 237A from 3M as well. These belts last a very long time. As you can see, it's a structured abrasive. You can't really see the difference in the abrasives. Whoops, that one shouldn't be there. But you've got them from a 240, 400 and 800. It's what's it, A65, A45, and then it comes in an A30. They don't get higher than this in this specific brand model from 3M. After the A30, you can move over to your finer grit Trizex if you want it high-end mirror polish. These last very, very long. When they get caked up, you can take a diamond tool, remove some of the abrasive, and continue using it from there. I hope you find this video informative, guys. Once more, I don't think I showed you the cheap aluminum oxide belts. These are the cheapest ones if we've got available in stock. This is your 36 grit and this is your 60. These I like to use for major roughing out. They work very well. They're very cheap. Keep your ceramics for steel. Use the aluminum oxide for wood. Really hope you found this video interesting, guys. Let me know your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below.